Hey guys, Adam here, Car Studio 72, Car Center of Excellence. It's end of August. I've got 3 track days before the end of the year and maybe an autocross. And one thing that had come up that I was somewhat avoiding was my rotors were done. These rotors, these APR rotor rings, which are really made by Power Brake, which is a South African company that makes some really nice stuff. They're 34 mil thick, which is huge. They're 350 by 34. So as you can see on my old one, there's no more slots left. There's a lip and they measure like 31, I think. So they're 2 mil is all you're really supposed to do, but I went a little extra. But these are done, they're thin, and the cracks are actually fine, and that's based on the fact that these are really quality rotors. So and they manage heat pretty well. I mean, I see maximum rotor temps of like, based on the temp paint that comes on them, I've seen about 950 degrees Fahrenheit, which is one of the advantages of big brake kits. They run cooler. The rotors, while expensive, they're almost $1,200 nowadays, the rotor rings, probably based partially on import tariffs that we're having issues with now here because these come from South Africa. They used to be, I think, $950. Either way, they're really a nice quality rotor ring, and I get about 10 track days out of a set, or maybe 3 sets of brake pads. That's probably about right. All the hardware basically broke getting it out, so they were done. I had to smack it all out with a punch. The street pads I use are these APR, they call them Advanced Street Entry-Level Track. We're going to call them hybrid, or kind of like a DS2500. I think the max operating temperature is like 1150. That's actually pretty good. I've tracked them. They work great. They just wear a little fast. They're pretty thin. So those are my daily pads. So I'm putting brand new pads, brand new rotor rings on, and I've got my right side done. They are directional, and they're not directional. A lot of people think that these slots are what tell you. It is the vanes that tell you, because these are directionally vaned rotor rings. There's an arrow on each that tells you which direction, plus a sticker. It's pretty easy. But I've been wrestling for a couple hours out here to get one done. Let me show you. I actually took the cap off my reservoir because to push the pistons all the way in to get the new big thick pads in. I'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe I could put a light in here. Yeah, there we go. So everything's cleaned up. I cleaned all the surfaces with a wire wheel, so all the mating surfaces are clean. I checked my studs. I have brand new rotor ring or rotor retention screws, brand new pads. Everything's torqued. We're ready to rock and roll. Something that was somewhat interesting is that these pads, you can see in here with the lighting is kind of bad. These pads are really thick, and they're thicker than the old pads, and I was a little concerned that they wouldn't all fit with brand new rotors, but they do, with just a few mil on each side to spare. I'm glad to see APR has thicker pads, because thicker is better, dissipates heat, and lasts longer. So I wish the aftermarket companies that make this pad shape would do that. That's great. I'm kind of excited about the thickness there. But anyway, there you go. There's brand new rotor ring on my APR 350 by 34 6-piston brake kit. Something else I noticed when I was doing this is these are my Continental Extreme Contact Sport ECS02, so street tires, summers. They're 235/40 18 on my Apex 18 by 8.5. I think they're ET43 wheels. So this is the inside. The inside has definitely got some toe wear. I'm going to throw my toe plates on after. The last time I checked it, it was fine. I have my front set up as 0 toe. The challenge with 0 toe, though, is as you compress the suspension, the toe actually changes. And what happens is, as you hit a bump, the toe actually comes out a little bit. I guess that way. Anyway, and that definitely puts some wear on the inside of your tire. So just an example of your more aggressive alignments that are not factory will sometimes wear the inside. Now, a lot of people go, oh, bro, man, it's your camber. It's not your camber, it's your toe. You're almost all this kind of wear on the inside or outside is toe related. So I just need to check my toe. If it's still 0, I'm fine. These tires probably going to last. They're coming off in another 2 months anyway, but I do want to check that. I know some people actually do a slight amount of toe in, and that allows the toe to go effectively 0 and under compression. That's another way to do it. But I do have a little bit of inside wear. I'll show you in a minute. I'll make a part of the video where I show how you do the rotor rings and install them. Okay, so calipers, I measured the thickness of the old rotor and I got 31.5. There you go, 31.5. So they're not supposed to be below 32. So I think basically 32, you know when you're at the minimum because the slots are gone. I think there's like one little bit left, but the cracks, heat crazing, looks great. So yeah, pretty good, nice quality rotor. Another thing I'd like to show you is these dust shields. These are the standard OEM dust shields from like a Golf R, Mark 7 Golf R or GTI with the Performance Pack 340 millimeter brakes. Because I have the big brake kit, this used to come all the way around, so I trimmed it off here. And then on the bottom, I've trimmed it here. So my ball joint actually is exposed. I know some people have had issues melting this, but the ABS sensor's up here and it's covered. Now, again, big brake kits. I was reading online the other day, somebody with the 340s, the factory ones are hitting like 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm hitting 950 and I'm driving the balls off of it. So big brake kits, again, are about heat management, and that's the value of them, not just that it's bigger. And it is more expensive. I just mentioned these are $1,200 rotors. I am going to be talking with Pete at 529 Innovations. I've got some measurements for him. Maybe that I can run a Paragon rotor or some other brand rotor and ring or hat and ring that'll fit with the offset, because 1,200 is a lot. If I could get a high quality rotor for rotor rings for under $1,000, I'd do it. Again, happy with these. It's just the price because of, I think, some of the import things has just gotten a little out of hand. Anyway, checking in a few. So I've got my old hardware out, which is a bitch. So, I mean, hammer, punch, you just have to pull out all the stops because basically the old bobbins just get rusted and corroded into the rotor in the hat. And the idea is well, if it was flipped over, the bolts are on the inside and you loosen them all up and then tap them with a hammer to free them. But these were so bad, they almost all broke. So I had to use a punch, a hammer, all kind of different things. Kind of a brutal process, but they're good now. I've cleaned the hat. This is the hat. And one thing I want to show you is two-piece rotors are called floating rotors because there's a little bit of a movement. It's not doing that when it's all tightened up with the new bobbins. But there is, these are oblong or slot. So basically there's a little bit of ability for heat as they heat up and expand to have a little bit of, I guess we'll call it movement, or I can't think of the word I want to say, but little bit of tolerance, clearance, whatever, on a two-piece rotor. So one thing to keep in mind is when you tighten this all up, you want to make sure it's centered. So I just use the cardinal points with a set of calipers and make sure before I tighten it, it is sitting in the center. The other thing to comment on is Loctite 272 high temp red. That is what APR says to do. So I have all my hardware Loctited, and then it gives you a torque number, and you better damn well follow anything to do with brakes. Should be all torque to spec, whatever they say. So I'm going to go ahead and get the bobbins installed. These holes really need to be cleaned out a little better, but what I usually do is just tap them in with a hammer and get them going. A few more kind of comments. So I have it all back together. So now both sides are done. Let's see if I can do this with this light. All that hardware in there needs to be cleaned. It gets corroded. It's got brake dust. I just use steel wool. I clean the pins, that spring, anything I can. I try to clean when I do this service, so everything moves easy. I don't use any grease or anything, but I'm gonna go take it for a ride now. get the pads matted up to the rotors. But yeah, all in, that it's getting harder as time goes on with this, just because it's been used so much. I don't know, I've got probably 35 track days on these, a bunch of autocrosses, all kind of stuff like that. So, but the calipers seem fine. I don't feel like I need to rebuild anything yet. I just feel like things are just getting more corroded, more brake dust build up. You know, maybe at some point I'll swap these for something different, but this has been definitely some of the best money I spent on my car. I mean, I know people struggle with brakes all the time, factory brakes, OEM style brakes, and really, big brake kit really sorts that out. And with the aftermarket kits that have been designed around the master cylinder size, the piston sizes that are necessary, you have a nice hard pedal, no problem. Yeah, anyway, big brakes, not a cheap thing to replace consumables with, but as probably the most important thing on the track for you in terms of your safety, I think it's definitely worthwhile to have a proper aftermarket big brake kit if you're really into this thing.